He gives a sermon, and he says at the end of your sermon, you do a benediction section in which you talk about making reparations on the local and individual level, donating to groups like the United Negro College Fund or scholarship program, but also to cite your example from the book, paying, quote, the black person who cut your grass double what you might normally pay. So he's basically making an argument that says, you know, one type of reparations we could do would be to allow whites to have individual reparations accounts, like an IRA, where they can do little things for black people that they know, for their black friends, maybe tip the waitress, 25% instead of 20%, pay the, the guy who cut your grass double. It really was kind of it was very, very strange to hear that, right? I don't know where the idea came from, but I can say this. I keep a pulse on the community in terms of what people think. On my page, on my YouTube channel, we have a little blog where I can share articles and ideas, and I put it up there, and I could tell you guys were not feeling that. A lot of you responded pretty strongly, really to the point where there were some people who were even mad at me for even putting Dyson's idea on the page. Like, Dr. Boyce, you're supposed to be woke, man. You're supposed to be woke. Why are you putting this bullshit on your page, man? I'm starting to think you're a fraud, Dr. Boyce. You a fraud because you put this up. Negro, calm down. Take your Ritalin, son. Take your Ritalin. He needs a nap. Never go off because somebody shared an idea with you that you disagree with. Just say, I disagree, and here's why. You ain't got to cancel everybody just because they say something that don't make no sense. Like that's kind of weird. That's a little bit over the top, if you ask me. But but I think it's okay to also to critique an idea, and which is what I'd like to do. And so I'm reading the New York Times article with Michael Eric Dyson where he's talking about these individual reparations accounts, and he says, good. When the guy says that idea gave me pause, this idea of paying the black person double to cut your grass as a type of reparations, or making a donation to the United Negro College Fund as a type of reparations. The New York Times reporter that interviews him says that gave me pause, and he says, good. I used to say in church, if the sermon ain't making you a little bit uncomfortable, it ain't effective. Look, if it doesn't cost you anything, you're not really engaging in change. You're engaging in convenience. You're engaged in the overflow. I'm asking you to do stuff you would ordinarily do. I'm asking you to do more, to think more seriously and strategically about why you possess what you possess. Okay. Then the reporter says to Dyson, he says, I agree with reparations, but maybe this is my white privilege speaking. I just can't imagine actually doing that. And then Dyson says, this is what I meant by an IRA, an individual reparations account. You ain't got to ask the government. You don't have to ask your local politician. This is what you, an individual, conscientious, woke citizen, can do. And so then he says, the reporter says, which is correct, but charity can't be the end of it, right? The Koch brothers gave the United Negro College Fund $25 million, but I doubt you would consider them woke. And then he says, no, Martin Luther King Jr. believed that charity is a poor substitute for justice, but I ain't turning $25 million down. Really interesting. What do you guys think? Good idea or BS? Answer me in the chat, and also hit the thumbs up button. Good idea or BS? I'd like to get your take in the chat. Do you think that Dyson's idea makes sense, or do you think it's a bunch of BS? Good idea, BS. Let me see. How you doing, Sonia and Marcia? And Trey, Federal Reserve mandate is the issue. Okay, interesting. All right. Brian says BS. Elvin says House Negro telling the field Negro it's okay to take a handout. Cluckus says BS. Versal City says bull. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of BSs. It looks like BS wins the election in a landslide. I have not seen anybody say this is a good idea. Dre Day says I like Dyson, but BS. Okay, so Michael Eric Dyson, I consider him to be a guy that I would look at as a friend. I ain't talked to him in probably 4 years, but I don't hate the guy. I'm just gonna say this: he's never been mean to me. Every time I met him, he's always been a decent human being. And actually, to give him full credit, the reason that I cannot go totally in on a guy like Dyson is because without Dyson, there would be no me. The same way I give credit to Dr. Claude Anderson, even when I disagree with him, Dyson is actually one of the first. He's the first public intellectual I ever saw. He's the first scholar that ever showed me that being a scholar in academia does not mean that you have to lock yourself away from the community. The first person I ever heard of that was a public scholar was Julianne Malveaux, and I read her book, Sex, Lies, and Stereotypes. And you see Dr. Malveaux comes on to this channel a lot. And Dyson was the first one I ever saw. Cornel West was the first one I ever saw in person. I ever shook his hand and talked to him, right? So I give them credit for that, but I think there's room, and I'm sure that they would understand this, there's room to critique an idea if it's just a bad idea and to talk about what we see. And here's what I'm going to say in terms of what I see, because y'all know I got to be honest. I'm gonna Bob, I'll take BS for $100, please. I'll take BS for $100 because I think BS. I think that the idea, I couldn't understand why the idea got on my nerves. Like it really annoyed me. Like I read it and I was like, I told Alicia, I said, this idea gets on my damn nerve, and I don't know why. I don't know. I mean, you know, what's wrong with somebody being nice and doing charity? Like, and then what's wrong with white folks paying up, right? We know that they owe us, right? You know, okay, what's wrong with the guy cutting the grass and getting extra money? Why should I be offended by that? And I figured out, I had to get in touch with my own emotions on why I felt this way. And the reason that I felt like it was BS is because the idea basically is a gimmick. You know, the idea is a gimmick. It's catchy. It sounds, you know, cool and intriguing. I can see some white university literally running off with this idea, and you know, and it's something that white liberals would just think was just like brilliant and amazing, and it's very insulting. I think not that Dyson intended to be insulting to black people, but it's very insulting because you're kind of taking a very serious issue and turning it into a charity-based gimmick. Like, yeah, just, you know, tip the black waitress a little bit extra. I mean, I already do that. I don't know, does anybody else do that when you go to a restaurant and you tip black people different from the way you tip white people? I ain't gonna lie. I might be systematically racist on this mug, because in my house, like we just kind of we do the B1 philosophy, you know, black first. Like type B1 in the chat if you put black people first. Like really, I do. When I go to a restaurant, if the waiter or waitress is black, automatically in my mind, you're not getting 15%, you're getting 25, you're getting 30%. If you're a young brother that looks like you're working hard, trying to take care of your family, trying to become something, I might tip you an amount that matches the cost of the entire meal, right? That's what I do. I do give that preference. But never in a million years would I ever think that would replace the vast systemic multi-trillion-dollar debt that is owed to black people for reparations. Like never would I think that tipping black people a little bit more or paying the guy who cuts the grass a little bit more would be any sort of substitute for what really needs to happen. The serious heavy work that needs to be done. It's like going to somebody who needs heart surgery and giving them a Kleenex. Like a Kleenex obviously does not replace heart surgery. But a Kleenex it's better than nothing, but it's not much better than nothing. And I think Dyson gets this, right? I really believe that he understands this. Now he's not a professor of economics, he's a professor of sociology. But I think even as a professor of sociology, I imagine he would probably admit that he wasn't saying that this was all that was needed. I think he was saying like, hey, this is something you could just do if that's something that'll make you feel better. But I think